Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Crash the Canvas. This is your weekly news and notes in the world of professional wrestling. I'm your host, David Mitchell, aka Dirty Mitch. And for the next 40 minutes or so of your life, I will give you the insight on the week that was in AEW, WWE, touch on a little independence and NWA, and we will also mourn the passing of one Antonio Inoki. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to go ahead and start the week off with AEW, right? Because the WWE kind of, we've been going on this white rabbit hole, so to speak. So I feel that, SmackDown and Raw should get a little bit more, of my time this week. But, Dynamite kicked off with the Jericho Appreciation Society and your new Ring of Jericho World Champion, Chris Jericho, come out to a nice promo, and he's talking about he is going to run at all the Ring of Honor greats. And if you run down that list, I mean, my goodness, you got Samoa Joe, you got Bryan Danielson, you got CM Punk, Hangman Adam Page. The list is endless. You could bring in one of the Briscoes. I think one of the Briscoes even was a Ring of Honor World Champion. So let's see where he goes with that. That'll be an interesting take on what they want to do with it. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've also, you had Bryan Danielson versus Daddy Magic with the win by Bryan Danielson. Next up, you had Maxwell, Jacob Friedman, MJF. And first off, I'm going to tell you again, MJF, Shabani's a legend. You're still carving your niche. Yeah, you might make more money than him, but man, the memories that man, you can spend that money. The memories that man has, you couldn't put a price tag on it. But it was an interesting take with MJF and Wheeler Yuta. And I'm kind of, I'm intrigued enough to keep tuning into this part to see what they do. They still went ahead and MJF alluded to the chip cash in to Wheeler Yuta in that promo. Who knows? They could have a program, a match, a one-off, maybe a one-off. Or a one-off and set up the rematch down the road, depending on what he does with that chip. You still had Jon Moxley over Juice Robinson. Again, this was for the eliminator for a shot at Moxley's AEW World title. And I think that's kind of stupid in my opinion, because you have your AEW World Champion taking on the person that if they beat them, they get a future world title shot. I think that type of match, if you're going to have an eliminator, you need to have this person and this person, and then, eliminator the old-fashioned way. Don't use your champion as your eliminator, right? And then, Saraya came out to an awesome pop. But here was the thing. She calls out the women's locker room, right? And this has been pointed out multiple times on Busted Open this week. If you're not listening to Busted Open, I don't know what you're doing with your day. You can find them on Sirius XM, satellite radio channel 156. The show runs from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. That's 9 to noon on the East Coast. That's 6 to 9 in California. So check them out. But she called out the women's locker room, and only a few of them come out. No Britt Baker, no Jade Cargill, hell, no even no Athena, right? But then you had the Serena D versus Toni Storm, and Toni Storm is still your interim AEW Women's World Champion. And I say that lightly with interim because the thunder will roll one day when the real AEW Women's World Champion returns, and I'm talking about La Mera Mera Thunder Rosa. But, and then it kind of went flat. Then you go to Rampage on Friday, right? And you had Private Party, Butcher and the Blade versus the Acclaim in a three-way tag title match. And the Acclaimed, man, Max Caster and Bowens, they are got to do it. Scissor me, daddy, scissor me, right? Because they are the hottest thing. Hey, they're right up there with popularity with the they've eclipsed the Young Bucks in my opinion, but that's just me. You had a deal with the Firm and Andrade backstage, which I thought was pretty interesting. But the interesting thing of the night on Rampage to me was the promo for Samoa Joe and Wardlow, right, as a tag team. Now, I believe Samoa Joe is still the Ring of Honor television champion. Wardlow is the TNT champion. So you have basically your two TV champions as a tag team. If they don't go for no belts, then what are they doing with this? They got me confused on the booking with that. And then, of course, Hook comes out and smashes Ryan Nemeth. Now, mind you, some of the creative for these 2 days, unfortunately, was impacted by Hurricane Ian, and talent couldn't get to and from, because of the travel disruption of the hurricane. So I give AEW credit; they did the best with what they had. Moving right along, before we get to WWE, I want to also mention some Impact news and notes. Eddie Edwards pinned. I said pinned Josh Alexander at Victory Road, right? By doing so, he earns a Impact World title shot, does Eddie Edwards, against Josh Alexander, at Bound for Glory. Could this be the end of the reign of Josh Alexander in Impact Wrestling and the usher in the era of Eddie Edwards? Only time will tell. We'll see what happens after Bound for Glory. Also, moving over to the NWA, caught an episode. One match that actually, a couple things stood out. With Tyrus forfeiting this, right? Tyrus is forfeiting this. That is the NWA World's Television title, right? Tyrus is forfeiting that to throw his hat in the match at Hard Times 3 against Trevor Murdoch and that douche canoe Matt Cardouche at Hard Times 3, right? Smart move on Tyrus's part because, look, Cardouche has been talking trash about Murdoch, so they're deep-seated. And Tyrus is, at a prime opportunity. He could just come in and, let those guys tear those other apart and, just take what's left and walk away with 10 pounds of gold. Remain to be seen after Hard Times 3, but you could have a new NWA World Champion in Tyrus. I wouldn't put it past him. Also, Bully Ray took on Jamie Stanley after an interesting, comical, classic bully heel promo, even though, he's kind of revered as maybe a babyface in the NWA. But if you haven't checked that out, go check that out on YouTube. Check out, search NWA or NWA Power. Won't be disappointed, especially if you're a fan of old school NWA with that TV studio style setting and the ring apron. Everything breathes Georgia Championship Wrestling. So if you're into that, man, go check them out right quick. Now, having a little technical difficulties, but hey, it happens. I don't have no producer. I'm doing this all on my own. I'll get better equipment soon. We'll get better soon. We're doing this together, guys. Okay, now, moving on to WWE Raw, right? Wow. I got to give... I'll leave that comment for a moment. Raw kicked off with Bianca versus Io Sky. Bianca walks away with the win, right? And it's almost like Damage Control. Okay, she has Bailey at Extreme Rules, right? We still got what, a week, 2 weeks away, week and a half away from Extreme Rules. She has Bailey at Extreme Rules for the title. If you go with this scenario, right, and Bianca faces Dakota Kai next week on Raw, then could they be setting up Damage Control to take the title from Bianca at Extreme Rules? I wouldn't doubt it, especially if Dakota Kai and Io Sky defend against Alexa Bliss and Asuka at Extreme Rules for the women's tag title, and they walk away victorious, because then what does that set up for? That sets up the return for Sasha Banks and Naomi. And, what better way to do it at a pay-per-view? I like the Raw comebacks sometimes, or the TV surprise comebacks, but that almost sells, a lackluster pay-per-view, because let's face it, you're not going to have the Tribal Chief defending the undisputed unified Universal Championship at Extreme Rules. He's not doing that till Clash at the Castle. Then they had Rey Mysterio versus Seth. Seth Rollins picking up the victory. I still think that they're still gearing that towards a father versus son, Rey versus Dom. Same way, almost kind of like revisiting the Who's Your Poppy with Eddie back in the day. So all points are leading towards that. Also, let's see. The deal with Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle just kind of got a little interesting. I don't know if anybody paid attention to the backstage promo with Bobby Lashley and Riddle, but if you looked, you almost seen a little disdain in Lashley's voice and demeanor, right? It's almost like, hey, bro, we're behind you, but chill, right? But it almost gave that look like you can take care of Seth, but don't think about coming towards me, right? So I just found that odd and interesting, and found it just a little bit intriguing, right? Let me try to fix something here. There we go. But yeah, I just found that a little bit interesting, that the Lashley's body language in that promo with Riddle. So then you still have the Kevin Owens, Johnny Gargano, Alpha Academy, and Austin Theory. But then you also throw in the monster among monsters, Braun Strowman, right? But now you have another intriguing piece to the puzzle. Big Omos, right? Man, wouldn't that be all? Man, look at that. There's not many people in wrestling today that Braun Strowman would have to look up to, right? And on the same token, there's not many people that Omos doesn't have to look way down to, right? I think that'll be an awesome clash, right? That's a barn burner waiting to happen, if you ask me. And the surprise thing though, I guess when you got your husband back, might as well bring the wife back. A returning Candice LeRae came and took on Nikki ASH, who had a post-match meltdown. So welcome back, Candice LeRae. But the post-match meltdown with Nikki ASH was something of suspense, if you ask me, because it almost looks like the superhero. It's almost like the way she's having a meltdown. It's like this damn superhero gimmick just isn't working no more, and I think it's time for a change. But if you didn't see that, those crying memes will be coming out really quick. Next up, you had Sami Zayn versus AJ, right? And which an otherwise good match, but in true Bloodline form, Solo Sikoa interfered on Sami Zayn's behalf, and the honorary Uce, right, picks up the win. But then Judgment Day came out to confront and attack AJ for his lackluster turning down the invitations to join the Judgment Day, and almost thought they were going to set up for a Finn Balor, right? Because if you had closed the show for that, you could have set up a Finn Balor versus AJ at Extreme Rules, and I would have been happy with that. But then the main event was Riddle versus Damian Priest. Now, Matt Riddle picks up the win, but the Judgment Day, and before I get to the end of that, I do want to say this. At first, it seemed like the Judgment Day, just like Damage Control, was just there. They were talking a big game, right? Blowing wolf tickets, right? But they wasn't doing anything. They wasn't backing. They were telling people in their promos we're dominant, we're taking over. Yet they wasn't doing nothing to take over. Now, in Damage Control's case, they now have the women's tag team titles. Bayley's going after Bianca in the Raw women's title. So obviously, you're getting Damage Control's getting the traction that Judgment Day needs. And so what does Judgment Day need, in my opinion? They need a title. Right now, I think that they should do something to Schnoz, Swerve, and come for get the U.S. title, right? Make that mean something, right? And almost with the guys, right? That not whoever wins the U.S. title, if it's somebody from Judgment Day, don't say Damian Priest is U.S. champion. Say Judgment Day's U.S. champion. Why? Because now we can invoke that Freebird rule, meaning, right, Judgment Day is anybody in Judgment Day, right? Same way with the Birds. They didn't say Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy, or Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts, or, however you want to put the trio. They said the Fabulous Freebirds, which meant any of the three at any given time. But anyway, back to so then with Riddle, out comes Judgment Day to jump him. And instead of AJ coming, wow, way to sell that. That was good. That was good storytelling there. Because if AJ came out to help Riddle, just one match after he's done taking an ass whooping, that diminishes the beatdown that the Judgment Day had put on AJ. No, you got the returning rated R superstar Edge in Canada, no less, right? When that music hit, right? When that On This Day, I See Clearly, yeah, when that song hit, hey, the crowd popped. He came in, cleaned house, right? Then looked at Finn and said, "And I quit" match. And they closed the show, right? So kudos to Monday Night Raw. They got 2 thumbs up. AEW, they got 1.5 thumbs up, right? Now let's go on to SmackDown. Now, unfortunately, this week I still haven't got a chance to watch a lot of NXT, so I'm not gonna speak on it or critique it, and I don't have any immediate, outlet news, even coming from a smartphone or just your regular outlet news. So apologies on that. Now let's move on to SmackDown, because SmackDown is where it got interesting, right? Because I almost stopped watching, right? I almost stopped watching after the Karrion Kross promo. But I was started off with SmackDown kicked off with the Honorary Uce, Sami Zayn, and Solo Sikoa defeating Ricochet and Madcap Moss. And almost cleanly, right? There wasn't no schnoz, there wasn't no outside interference. But the interesting part is when Solo and Sami were seen in the back post-match, walking towards the Bloodline locker room, right? We're going to speak to Roman, right? Doors kind of locked. Out comes Jey Uso, and he's pissed, right? He sees Sami and he's pissed. So he lets his brother in, and then him and Sami cut a promo, or he cuts a promo on Sami, and it just leaves a lot for doubt. But like I said, it's been said before that you got to have a lot of stories with a faction like that, right? Because all the attention can't be on Roman. You have the Usos, bro. The Usos are the undisputed tag team champions. Can't be all on them. So you gotta give Solo and Sammy something to do if you're going to have them in the group and a part of the group. But then moving right along, Karrion Kross, there was a vignette for his strap match at Extreme Rules against Drew McIntyre, and what did we get? We got more hints to the White Rabbit. Now that's I'm going to speak back on that in a minute, but we'll close the SmackDown comments with that promo. So let's revisit that in just a second. A couple other things that caught my eye Friday night was the Liv versus Ronda. I think, in my opinion, the build up to that match and Liv Morgan's, just got better in the favor. Not that Liv Morgan's going to win, but Liv Morgan has always been looked at, as a little pushover, and now she's the SmackDown Women's Champion, and she's beat Ronda Rousey, right? And she's cashed it in. She's defended it. Now it's an Extreme Rules match, and how do we toughen her up? If you go back and look at this past Friday night, and then go look at the week before against Lacey Evans, with the kendo stick, a la Sandman and Tommy Dreamer, and where they have an Extreme Rules, Philadelphia. What was ECW built on? The little guy that was told he wasn't big enough, or she wasn't big enough, fast enough, and strong enough for the big boys of WCW, or the Land of the Giants of the WWE. That's ECW. So she just kind of resembled, what ECW kind of stood for in her own little way. But to me, the build-up, as far as looking at it from a Liv Morgan perspective, just got a lot better for that. And, the Imperial continue to, jump on. And like I said, I think Butch and, oh, God, who was the other guy in the Sheamus's posse? Either way, the Brawling Brutes, right? And so it was Sheamus. I believe he was getting ready to try to challenge Gunther for the Intercontinental title at Extreme Rules, and they all just come in and annihilated him, right? You don't see Sheamus left in the ring laying like that very often. And if it is, he's usually put some knuckle knots on somebody to get, Either way, I think if it's going to be Sheamus versus Gunther, it could be a last man standing match. If you were to, because you got to go back and look at their clash at the Castle, and it's almost kind of like, what's the next layer of the chapter? And but yeah, go check that out. So those are your highlights of SmackDown, Raw, AEW Dynamite, AEW Rampage, and a little dib into Impact and NWA. Now, real quickly, before, close this show and speak on the passing of the legendary Antonio Inoki, I want to give a couple shout-outs to some inspiration slash peddle some of the people's stuff. Real quickly, you like what you hear. You can hear something more polished and better and, more funnier on Sirius XM Satellite Radio, Channel 156 with Busted Open Radio, hosted by Dave LaGreca. You got some wonderful producers behind the scenes, Gabby, Paul, Andre, but hosted by Dave LaGreca. His co-hosts include two-time Hall of Famer Bully Ray, Hall of Famer Mark Henry, future Hall of Famer Tommy Dreamer, the GOAT, Mickey James, La Mera Thunder Rosa, Ryan McKinnell. You guys don't, if you don't have it, you don't need a car to have it. You can put it on your smartphone device, right? So big shout out to Busted Open Radio. Also big shout out to all the guys and gals at Nation's Corner. go check them out on YouTube. Search Nation's Corner. Like, subscribe, and share. And they got some pretty cool content and stuff up there as well. Also, like, subscribe, and share this one. Also, if you listen to Busted Open Radio, Dave LaGreca's got some hot sauce, and that hot sauce can be found at LaGrecasRage.com. That's LaGrecasRage.com. Your first bottle, you can buy a regular bottle, and you can buy an unsigned bottle. So go check that out. That's LaGrecasRage.com. LAGRECAS Rage.com. Also, if you love to drink coffee like I do, right? Get some of Tommy Dreamer's Hardcore Coffee at richportcoffee.com. That's richportcoffee.com. And then search in their drop-down box, search Hardcore Cafe. You can grab you a bag of beans, or you can grab it already ground up. Either way, check it out. Some pretty good coffee. Not what I got in my cup today, but I do have some upstairs. And also, a big special shout out to hopefully a future sponsor of the show, right? Right now, I just want to give her a big shout out for some products that she does. And that's Promise Prints by Angie. You can find her on Facebook. It's called Promise Printing by Angie. That's Promise Printing by Angie. You can find her on Facebook. Search Promise Printing by Angie. You can also find her on Instagram. She does T-shirts. She does all types of screen printings. And she also does this little unique thing. I know you guys probably ain't Cowboys fans, right? But that is a 22-ounce tumbler. But the cool thing is it has a built-in Bluetooth at the bottom. Check this out. Right? So you can still put it in pop your Bluetooth on, sync your device down to it, right? Have your cold drink, warm drink, whatever. And she also customizes them, right? So if you can take a picture of it, she can probably put it on one of these. And if you can't put it on the one with the Bluetooth, she can definitely put it on another one without the Bluetooth. So that's Promise Printing by Angie on Facebook and Instagram. Go check her out. Turnaround is that I'm satisfied. I've ordered multiple ones of those with and without the Bluetooth. Right. Also, once again, you can find me on Facebook at David Mitchell Jr. or you can find me on Twitter at Show Me State Goon. You can email the show, dirtymitch417@yahoo.com. And like I said, you like what you hear, if it's amusing, if it's comical, whatever, you want to help your boy out, promote this. I'm only going to get better. I can't get no worse, So at least say you was on there for the beginning of the ride, and like, share, subscribe, comment, drop something down, man, for a future show. We'll also be doing in the future, I'm going to be doing a top 5 series. Let's see what I've already got in the works. Top 5 announcers, top 5 tag teams, top 5 factions, top 5 greatest moments, top 5 entrance songs, not theatrical, but the song itself, right? So be on the lookout for those on YouTube. Unfortunately, for now, those will not be available yet on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You can check out the audio of this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by searching Crash to the Canvas. Anyway, before we get ready to go, right, I believe it was sometime late Thursday night. I'm not sure the time difference from the United States to Japan. But by Friday afternoon, actually, before SmackDown went on the air at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time on Friday evening, it was learned that legendary Japanese wrestler, promoter, philanthropist, politician, activist, father, son, just every positive label you could put on him. He earned it. And I'm talking about Antonio Inoki. unfortunately passed away on Friday night. Or, like I said, I'm not sure of the time difference. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. But if you know, I said this on Busted Open on Saturday, and, I don't think I'm far fetched on that. The more I learned about Inoki while waiting on hold, right? Because sometimes when you call into satellite radio or national radio, you get a lot of wait time. But I heard a lot of interesting stories about Antonio Inoki before I got to take my call. So I kind of redid my call, right? Um, I kind of redid my call, and it almost seemed like I said, will go down as having more of an impact and a footprint on professional wrestling as a whole than Vince McMahon. Think about that. And I'll give one prime example, right? When you think about that, is he was 79 years old. He was born in Yokohama, Japan, and he died October 1st in Tokyo, Japan, right? Now here's what touched me about him. You hear all the stuff, about him training these guys, this guy, that guy, right? You hear all the he did this, he did that in the realm of wrestling. I want to speak to more about the activist. He used his platform as a professional wrestler, right? And after his days in the ring were done, he wanted to do, help the relationship of his country of Japan and North Korea. And what better way to do it than through wrestling, right? Now, mind you, this is the same North Korea that wishes death upon the United States every time they breathe. So Inoki instilled the help of the American wrestling public and put on a show in North Korea, right? That was supposedly seen by over 300,000 people in 2 days, right? Most notably on day 2, he took on the Nature Boy Ric Flair, right? In front of a sold out crowd, 160 some thousand people, right? And beat Flair right about almost the 20-minute mark in that match. But the fact that he would to try to make things right with his enemy by instilling one of their enemies, just speaks about the profound effect and, the fruits of that labor. I don't think they're at war, but anyway, that speaks a lot volumes about the man's character. And I've never in the days before and the days after, I haven't heard anybody speaking, at least in the American wrestling public, any ill will at all about Antonio Inoki, whether it be business dealings with him, working for him, competing against him. Just think about this. I grew up watching the Great Kabuki and Great Muta, guys like that, right? All footprints of Antonio Inoki. Let's switch sports for just a second. You see this Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. That's a MMA guy versus a boxer. You wouldn't have that if you didn't have Muhammad Ali taking on Antonio Inoki, right? Even though the match didn't take place in his promotion of New Japan Pro Wrestling or IWGP or All Japan, that helped spawn Frontier Martial Arts, right? And Frontier Martial Arts are the ones that held those death matches, classic death matches from the 90s between Terry Funk and one Mick Foley. So the influence there, right? We're talking just the influence there. You could jump over to the side, like Ryan McKinnell said, and even Jimmy Smith on Unlocking the Cage, the impact he had for modern day MMA, right? At least on the Japanese side, which is pretty, pretty interesting in itself and a pretty high honor. But one thing that this new regime got right in the wake of the passing of Antonio Inoki was they mentioned his win over Bob Backlund when Bob Backlund was in the midst of that almost 2,200-day run as WWF champion, right? Because in doing so, if it was never mentioned, it was omitted from the books, because in doing so, that would put a halt to that reign, right? So kudos to them mentioning that despite it not being recognized, he beat Bob Backlund for the WWF title, making him, even though it was not officially recognized, making him the first Japanese-born WWE champion or WWF. So, in the words of the great Antonio Inoki, all he ever wanted was peace, love, and prosperity, right? And I think that's what we should give in this show with a little bit today, is a little bit of peace, love, and prosperity. So that's going to do it for me today. Dirty Mitch, your boy Dirty Mitch, a.k.a. David Mitchell. Until next time, till next week, be kind, be safe. God bless you. And if you're going to crash the canvas.